Margaret came down with measles overnight. Her immune system weakened, and she was struggling to breathe. 15 calls went unanswered. John was working in the city and said he had no time to come back. Robert promised to drive over but repeatedly warned against calling an ambulance due to the high costs.
Don't you dare call an ambulance, it's outrageously expensive. Even selling you wouldn't cover the cost.
I looked at Margaret's pained expression, feeling a lump in my throat.
What if she can't hold on?
It's just measles, nothing serious. Don't make a fuss.
Margaret was in great discomfort, her eyes half open and teary.
Emily, has my son come back?
Margaret coughed violently, spitting out phlegm mixed with blood. My heart sank, but I forced a smile.
Margaret, Dad, and Uncle will be back soon.
I picked up the old landline phone at home and called Robert again. He was evasive, then suddenly changed his tone.
Emily, be honest with me. Did my mom make a will to leave the house to you?
I was taken aback, looking at Margaret's suffering, feeling anxious.
Uncle, don't listen to rumors. Margaret is in great pain. Please come back and take her to the hospital.
Taking her to the hospital is fine, but you need to write a guarantee that you won't claim any of her property in the future.
I promise I won't take any inheritance.
There was a long silence on the other end of the line before Robert casually mentioned another matter.
I heard your dad bought a house in town. Your cousin Tom needs to go to school there. How about he stays at your place, and we'll give you $100 a month for food?
I felt a chill in my heart. His meaning was clear: if I didn't agree, he wouldn't come. But the house in town wasn't mine.
Did you hear me? Don't play dead. I can wait. If my mom passes away, it'll be your fault.
Robert's evasiveness and Margaret's pain on the bed made me grit my teeth. I hung up and dialed 911. Sitting in the ambulance, Robert, Linda, and Sophia arrived late. Robert poked my head and scolded.
You useless girl, can't make money yourself and now want to take mine? Didn't I tell you not to call an ambulance?
Such a caring granddaughter, making us look bad. Anyway, let her dad cover the cost.
I bit my lip, holding back tears and anger.
Go see Margaret. The doctor said she might not make it.
Linda's eyes lit up, eagerly asking the doctor.
Should I prepare funeral clothes?
If the elderly have a strong will to live, there's a good chance they'll wake up.
That's different. She's staying in the hospital, eating and drinking on my dime. My son needs money for treatment, and we don't have it.
Linda looked at me.
Your dad has time to buy a house. He should take care of his mother. Call him now.
I bit my lip. Tensions were high as Linda faced the doctor with eager eyes.
Doctor, should I prepare funeral clothes?
If the elderly have a strong will to live, there's a good chance they'll wake up.
Linda's snort filled the room as she placed her hands on her hips.
That's different. She's staying in the hospital, eating and drinking on my dime. My son needs money for treatment, and we don't have it.
Turning her gaze towards me, Linda's voice became more demanding.
Your dad has time to buy a house. He should take care of his mother. Call him now.
I bit my lip, holding back tears and anger.
Go see Margaret. The doctor said she might not make it.
Linda's eyes lit up with a peculiar eagerness as she turned to the doctor.
Should I prepare funeral clothes?
The doctor glanced over, clearly annoyed.
If the elderly have a strong will to live, there's a good chance they'll wake up.
Linda snorted and placed her hands on her hips.
That's different. She's staying in the hospital, eating and drinking on my dime. My son needs money for treatment, and we don't have it.
Linda looked at Emily with a demanding expression.
Your dad has time to buy a house. He should take care of his mother. Call him now.
Lying in bed, I felt a mix of emotions. I couldn't help but think back to when Sarah was still around. John wasn't like this. After Sarah passed away, John fell into despair.
Seeing her reminds me of her mother. I can't raise her. You take her, and I'll send you living expenses every month.
I cried, chasing after John's departing figure, begging him not to abandon me.
Please, don't leave me, Dad.
How dare you show your face to me? You caused your mother's death.
Yes, I caused Sarah's death. I remembered that day when we both had a car accident. Sarah died on the spot protecting me. Now, even Margaret might leave me. The next day, I went to see Margaret early. But to my shock, I found Tom holding a silver needle, about to stab it into Margaret's head. I burst through the door and kicked him away forcefully. Linda, hiding behind the door, was startled and pretended to take out her phone before putting it away.
Why are you making such a fuss, you brat?
Max, were you trying to harm Margaret?
I looked at Tom lying on the floor, grimacing. A chill ran through me.
What nonsense are you spouting? Kids play with needles. It's none of your business.
She suddenly thought of something, her face turning hostile.
If you dare spread this around, I'll tear your mouth apart.
Linda, why are you so flustered then? If you have a clear conscience, you wouldn't fear anything. Karma will come around.
I looked at Max.
By the way, I installed a camera in the room. Those with ill intentions should be careful. You might end up in trouble.
I'm not scared of your threats. Stop talking nonsense.
Linda shielded Max, glaring at me even more. She seemed convinced that I was deliberately opposing her. At home, she would give me dirty looks and complain to John.
She's ill-mannered, disrespectful, and doesn't care for the young.
In front of Margaret, she even threatened her, saying I shouldn't be so arrogant. John, used to being a teacher, would scold me, throwing books at me in frustration.
How many times do I have to tell you? Stop causing trouble. I don't know who you take after with that temper. If I knew you'd be such a hassle, I'd rather have no children at all.
At this point, Robert sighed, suppressing a laugh.
Oh, brother, she's still young and doesn't understand. Our Max is sensible and won't hold a grudge against his sister. But Emily, you need to stop being so unruly and causing trouble. Otherwise, one day, your dad might get reported, and you won't know who did it.
That night, I was punished to kneel in the living room, reflecting on my actions. Tom made faces at me and spat.
You're a worthless piece of trash. You should leave like Margaret.
Heartless brat, you'll get your comeuppance.
But I never expected that Margaret would really pass away that night. Dressed in mourning clothes, Emily held Margaret's coffin, crying until the sky turned dark. Anyone who saw her would say she was a dutiful granddaughter. Meanwhile, Tom secretly took offerings from the table and ate them under the table, not even wiping his mouth afterward. He cried out loudly, then tugged at Linda's clothes.
Mom, I'm hungry. Make me some food.
Linda wiped away non-existent tears and wailed loudly.
My Max has been keeping vigil for his grandmother all night. He's probably starving now.
She glanced around, hinting at something.
It's clear who truly cares after someone passes. We're not like some heartless people who only care about themselves. They pretended to be filial to their grandmother.
She almost pointed directly at Emily, but it was Linda who had driven Emily out of the ancestral hall yesterday, not allowing her to see Margaret one last time.
Girls bring bad luck. Are you trying to make it hard for your grandmother to rest in peace? This is the ancestral hall. How can an unmarried girl come here?
Emily wanted to argue, but Robert and John looked at her with malice. John sighed, his eyes full of disdain.
Emily, your grandmother has passed. Let her go peacefully. Stop being stubborn.
So, Emily knelt outside the ancestral hall all night. No one shed a tear for Margaret except for her and the pretending Linda. Emily closed her eyes and seemed to see Margaret's figure again. The day after Margaret was buried, Robert's family locked the countryside house with chains. The black dog Margaret raised was also thrown out, standing helplessly at the door, shivering.
This is my inheritance from my mother. None of you can take it.
John's face darkened, but he said nothing, which was a silent agreement. Linda had a table brought over, crossed her legs, and took out a ledger.
Now that Mom has passed, we need to hold a banquet. The gift money goes to us, and the expenses are covered by you, Big Brother.
She looked up, smiling happily.
Is that okay? As the Big Brother, you only have one brother now. No need to be so calculative.
Emily couldn't accept it. John frowned.
That's your uncle. After your grandmother's death, he's my only relative. It's right to give in a bit.
Linda quickly nodded.
Exactly. Besides, we still have Max to raise. Boys are expensive. We need to buy him a house, a car, and find him a wife.
She looked proud, patting Max's head.
After all, you only have a daughter. No big expenses. Just marry her off, and that's it.
What she said wasn't wrong, but Emily felt it was ironic. In their minds, boys always needed houses and cars, while girls just needed to be married off. So, even though John prided himself on being fair, he thought Linda made sense.
That's settled. As the big brother, I'll help more. I'll cover the expenses. I still have savings.
As he spoke, Emily looked down at the clothes she'd worn for 3 years and forced a smile. She didn't say anything. After all, she'd asked before, but he didn't even want to answer her calls. Emily bit her lip, struggling to hold back tears and anger.
Go see Margaret. The doctor said she might not make it.
Linda's eyes lit up with a twisted eagerness as she turned to the doctor.
Should I prepare funeral clothes?
The doctor glanced over, annoyed by her question.
If the elderly have a strong will to live, there's a good chance they'll wake up.
Linda snorted and placed her hands on her hips.
That's different. She's staying in the hospital, eating and drinking on my dime. My son needs money for treatment, and we don't have it.
Linda then looked at Emily with a cold stare.
Your dad has time to buy a house. He should take care of his mother. Call him now.
Emily bit her lip, holding back tears and anger.
Go see Margaret. The doctor said she might not make it.
Should I prepare funeral clothes?
If the elderly have a strong will to live, there's a good chance they'll wake up.
That's different. She's staying in the hospital, eating and drinking on my dime. My son needs money for treatment, and we don't have it. Your dad has time to buy a house. He should take care of his mother. Call him now.
The whispers came one after another, suffocating Emily.
Oh my God, could that crazy woman be telling the truth? Is Emily really that bad? Did her mom pass away early?
No wonder I always felt a bit creeped out being her classmate.
Don't talk nonsense. Emily is really nice.
Emily couldn't take it anymore. Taking a deep breath, she grabbed Linda by the hair and dragged her to the teacher's office, slamming the door shut behind them.
Who do you think you are? accusing me of harming my grandmother and coveting her inheritance?
Why don't you ask your husband who refused to send Margaret to the hospital when she was sick? Who's really after Margaret's money?
You three have been living off my dad, eating and staying for free. Have you ever thought about the damage your insults and slander have caused me?
Linda rolled her eyes, agitated.
You're talking nonsense. Everything I said is true. You must have used some underhanded means to take my husband's house. That property rightfully belongs to us.
You have some nerve! Taking Margaret's $5,000 meant for her retirement to send your son to a private school. Spreading rumors in the village that I caused my mom's death and that I'm cursed. You know what people say about me? That I'm ugly, cursed, and will harm my grandmother too. They describe it so vividly, I almost believe it.
As Jessica finished speaking, the door opened. Her classmates stood there, angry and indignant.
Aunt, I think you should leave. Emily is kind and beautiful, much better than a malicious person like you.
A female classmate stood protectively in front of Emily.
You're the one who's cursed, with your foul mouth. You deserve to live with your ungrateful son for the rest of your life.
Linda's eyes widened in anger.
How dare you speak to me like that? I'm your elder. You should respect me. You're all a bunch of ill-mannered brats.
She was about to start another tirade, but this time, the security guard restrained her.
You have insulted a student's dignity and twisted the truth. Legally, I can call the police. With your behavior, you could be detained for at least 15 days.
Hearing about detention, Linda stammered and tried to wriggle free from the security guard's grip in a comical manner.
I'm not scared. Besides, I just said a few words. What's the big deal? We have freedom of speech.
She took a breath and looked at Emily.
Emily, I'm just worried about you. Think carefully. Do you really want to cause a rift between your dad and his only brother?
It's better if they cut ties.
Linda was stunned, and as she was escorted out by the security guard, she cursed.
Ungrateful brat! You'll never change!
Once she was gone, the classroom returned to its usual quiet. Emily looked down, embarrassed, and apologized.
I'm sorry for causing such a scene.
But this time, they comforted and cared for her. The once invisible Emily had suddenly become the center of attention.
Have some. It'll help you feel better. We have a long life ahead. Not worth worrying about people like her.
The tension in the room was palpable as Emily bit her lip, trying to hold back her tears and anger.
Go see Margaret. The doctor said she might not make it.
Inda's eyes lit up with a strange eagerness.
Should I prepare funeral clothes?
Doctor glanced at her, clearly annoyed.
If the elderly have a strong will to live, there's a good chance they'll wake up.
Inda snorted, placing her hands on her hips.
That's different. She's staying in the hospital, eating and drinking on my dime. My son needs money for treatment, and we don't have it.
He turned to Emily with a demanding look.
Your dad has time to buy a house. He should take care of his mother. Call him now.